Call the Lewiston City Council to order. Would you please stand and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you and welcome everyone to tonight's October 23rd meeting. Our next order of business is citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the mayor. In consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. I should also add, Councilor Lidke, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Lidke will be joining us remotely. Then also to tell you, the Lewiston City Council pledges to practice and promote civility within the governing body, advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of the city of Lewiston. I'd also like to remind you that if you're here to provide comments on the public hearing, any of the public hearings, you must wait until the public hearing is opened. With that, I would invite any citizens to the microphone in the middle of the floor there. Introduce yourself and your city of residence. You'll have 3 minutes to provide comments. Thank you.
Good
Welcome,
evening,
Lynn.
Mayor Johnson and City Council. Lynn Johnson, Library Director here at the City of Lewiston Library. We are excited that the Daughters of the American Revolution will be speaking to you later tonight about Family Literacy Day, but I also wanted to share that the Lewiston City Library, along with the Idaho Commission for Libraries and all libraries across the state, will celebrate Idaho Family Reading Week, the week of November 6th through 12th. Here in Lewiston, families are encouraged to visit with the Army Corps of Engineers, who will be with us the evening of November 8th, along with the WSU Raptor Club, who will also be bringing large live birds and their caretakers. So we encourage families to turn out for that exciting event. And we just want to encourage everyone to celebrate reading with their families and their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Further city comments? Welcome.
Hi, Rick Eldridge, person from the town. I have some questions, because you guys are looking into purchasing the Twin City Foods again. So I just wanted to put this out there, this was one of the comments on our page, concerned citizens, or these are a number of questions that's on our page. So what is your specific expertise and experience and knowledge in negotiating a multi-million-dollar real estate transaction? Please be detailed and specific. Feel free to use additional pages as needed. What is your specific expertise, experience, and knowledge in negotiating transactions and dealing with contaminated commercial real estate? Again, please be specific and detailed. Please cite other cities which have used taxpayer dollars to purchase commercial contaminated real estate, and the results of those cities that they have achieved in eliminating the contamination and ultimately selling the real estate for profit. Over a year ago, we were involved in discussions in eliminating the contamination of the Twin City food properties. Discussions included a cost guess of around $10 million. You can damn sure that that's a lot more now with the inflation and recession. That's 10 million plus taxpayer dollars for the cleanup. That's going to be the burden on the taxpayers. And what position or authority do you have to expertise do you have in to purchase such a contaminated piece of property? Being that it's going to be into perpetuity, the damages that come with taking on the legal backgrounds of this, which is any complaints filed against, any legal action for arsenic poisoning and whatnot. I have a whole list here, but I just wanted to go over a couple of these, you know. And this one's really important. This, because we shot this down a year ago, or give or take, you know, because we don't want this. We don't want this burden on the taxpayers. We don't want this burden. Do you plan to have a public vote on the purchase of this property, this contaminated property? Taxpayers told you before, we don't want this. And there'll be further things coming along with this. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick. Welcome.
I'm Kathy Schock, live at 3519 28th Street in Lewiston. And one of my questions is, at one time, I thought we had hired 3 people to take care of some of the city ordinance, which are the hoarding problems that we have in Lewiston. And one of the main ones, of course, I think all of us drive by it and more than once, is on 5th Street. And it appears as though the cars are now also in the right-of-way across the street from the gentleman's house. Another one is Grell, one on 14th Avenue. If you go anywhere in Lewiston, you see a great deal of hoarding and encroaching out into the right-of-ways. So I was wondering where we were at getting this stuff cleaned up. My other question is about the community property or community park. And is it true that the city has decided not to pursue the $92 million community park? And that's about all I had to ask.
Thank you. Are there further citizen comments? Hearing none, we'll move into Roman numeral 4, presentations. Our first presentation today is a proclamation for National Family Literacy Day, recognizing November 1, 2023 as National Family Literacy Day. And we have some representatives from the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. So if you'd please join me up front, I'll read the resolution and present it to you. Its 29th anniversary of November 1st, 2023 highlights the importance of reading and learning with its entire family and emphasizes the impact that parents have on their child's learning. And whereas this day is celebrated across America each year and focuses on special activities and events that showcase the importance of family literacy programs that empower families and build a nation of readers. And whereas literacy programs across the United States will observe National Family Literacy Day by holding readathons, book drive workshops, and family activities at schools, libraries, and community centers to encourage literacy. And whereas as many as 1 in 6 adults struggle with reading and writing. And by learning to read, individuals can gain self-respect and confidence and strive for goals that otherwise would not be achievable. And whereas the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution is a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, serving American history, and securing America's future through education of young adults. And whereas education, being one of the cornerstones of the National Daughters of the American Revolution, is committed to increasing literacy by promoting and supporting literacy programs. Now, therefore, I, Dan Johnson, Mayor of the City of Lewiston, proclaim November 1st, 2023 as National Family Literacy Day. To underscore the importance of literacy, celebrate the joy of reading, encourage residents to promote literacy by reading together as a family, and to extend deep appreciation for our local librarians, educators, and literacy service providers for their tireless efforts to strengthen the literacy of our children and our community. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and seal in the city of Lewiston, Idaho, to be affixed hereto this 23rd day of October 2023, Daniel T. Johnson, Mayor of Lewiston, Idaho. Thank you. They say that you learn to read up to the third grade, and thereafter you read to learn. So it's a very important thing that we do for our children and our families. So thank you very much. Our next item is 4B, Financial Report, September 23, Financial Report for September 23, in accordance with Idaho Code 50-208. We have an oral report tonight from our Finance Director, Amy Gordon. Amy, if you'd please introduce yourself for the record, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Amy Gordon, City Treasurer. I'm going to keep it short tonight. I know you guys have some public hearings later on this evening. So I thought I would start first by let that come back up here for a second. Just kind of reviewing why you get these reports from us every month, which is in state code. There's two sections of state code that provide that we provide council with some financial reports. One is a treasury report, which is a listing of all the money that the city has and where it's located, which we are to provide to you on a monthly basis. And those have to be within 60 days of the month end. And then we also provide to council a financial report that shows where the city is year to date on expenditures in comparison to budget. State code requires those to be done quarterly. We actually provide them to you monthly. It's just easier for us on our processes that we just keep that as smooth and just generate both reports on a monthly basis. The quarterly financial report requires that information to be published and presented, which is why we come before you on a quarterly basis. And our publishing requirements are to publish on our city website. So once we present it to you, we will publish it on the city website. So September 30th is the end of our fiscal year. So we've now completed 12 months. And as much as we would love to put a check on the year and move forward with our focus on fiscal year 24, it takes us about 6 weeks to close out our year. So up until last Thursday, we were processing all of our payables and trying to get as much of them done by last Thursday. So on the header of both of the reports that were in your packet, you'll notice these reports have preliminary on them. The reason for that is it will be about middle of November when we finalize our trial balance and hand it off to the auditors. And even then, we'll still do a couple of adjustments during the audit process. Some of the items that we will do now, between now and when we hand that trial balance over to the auditors, as we go through and make certain that we've gotten all the invoices gathered and entered in for payment for the prior fiscal year. We go through and make certain we've captured all of our receivables, anyone who owes us money. A lot of these pertain to our grant programs. We have our payroll that we just processed last Thursday was actually a split payroll, so it's split between fiscal year 23, 24. So we have adjustments to our payroll liabilities we have to do. We only update compensated absences on an annual basis. We have debt entries we have to do, capitalization of assets. our inventory, physical counts, and updating the ledger to adjust for those. Delinquent taxes, unbilled utility receivables, and deferred revenue, those are just the top ones. So that between now and mid-November, we'll be doing a lot of this work and getting it ready for the auditors. So the financial report that you have in your packet is preliminary because those numbers are subject to change. However, the report that you have in your packet could be a useful resource for council. One of the things I wanted to point out tonight is we have 5 proprietary funds that include our enterprise funds and our internal service departments. Those funds are, they capitalize their assets, so they operate much like a private business would. When you buy an asset, you capitalize it, you record an asset record rather than expensing it out in the year that you buy it. So when we create all of our capital asset records between now and mid-November, we'll be zeroing out those expense accounts. That's part of the capitalization entry. So these reports are a good tool for council if you wanted to see what these funds spent in capital expenditures for the year, because by the time we close our year out, those capital expenses will show 0 to little in their expense accounts. And then, so by the time you get your full-blown report from the auditors, all of those assets will be capitalized. So it's just a good resource to do. We keep a record of what we've capitalized each year, but this is a good report because it will give you pretty close to what we've spent in capital expenditures in these funds. And that's all I have for this evening, unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Director Gordon. Councilors, any questions tonight? No? Looks like you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lidke.
I don't have a question. I just a comment for Amy and for staff, and for you, the mayor. Looking at these reports and just seeing the investments that were made to move money into accounts that were actually building on our taxpayer dollars to increase our interest is monumental, and I really appreciate it as a taxpayer. And just job well done. Again, I like seeing those numbers.
Thank you, Councilor. Director Gordon likes those comments too. You can't see her, but thank you. Okay, Council, next up we have Roman number 5, public hearings and related action items. Item A is a public hearing, proposed grant activities, accepting testimony on a proposal to the, excuse me, to the Idaho Department of Commerce for an Idaho Community Development Block Grant CARES to replace and upgrade the playground equipment, surfacing material, add an accessible drinking fountain, and to provide additional accessible parking options at Pioneer Park. We have our, our Director for Parks and Recreation here with us, Mr. Barker. The way the hearing process will work is I'll open the public hearing. We'll have a staff presentation, testimony from the public if there is any council questions, and then I'll close the public hearing. Citizens will have up to 3 minutes to provide comments. So with that, I will open the public hearing and turn the floor over to our Parks and Rec Director, Mr. Barker.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Tim Barker, Parks and Recreation Director for the city. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be out here. Typically, when we are applying for grants, we don't always come in front of council and have a formal process, public hearing. It is a requirement with the CDBG funds that are through the Department of Commerce to have this process, and so that's why we're here tonight. What I'll do is I'll run through. It's pretty straightforward request. I'll talk about the reasons why we're looking at doing this and what the funding will go towards, and then take any questions that you might have. So the proposed project that we have in front of you tonight is to replace and upgrade the playground equipment and surfacing material just on that portion at Pioneer Park, which that playground is on the far southern end of the park, furthest away from where the band shell area is. That equipment was installed in 1991, and along with some of our other playground equipment, we are looking at probably a 5-6 year time frame to try to replace as much of the equipment as we can. This funding became available, so we want to take advantage of the opportunity to be able to use grant funding to be able to complete this project without using any tax dollars. And so that's really the main reason why we're coming to you today. The total project cost is estimated at $275,000. Of that, we are requesting $250,000 from the Department of Commerce through their CARES funding. The other two pieces besides the playground equipment replacement and the replacement of the surfacing material, which is an engineered wood fiber material, that tends to degrade over time, and we have to infill annually. We typically spend about $10,000 to $15,000 a year just doing that within our park system. So this would fund a brand new playground structure and all of the new surfacing material, which is about a 12-inch thick material. We would be looking at including ADA parking stalls. So just on the south side of the restroom area, there's a very flat spot. We were hoping to try to incorporate some ADA in a different area, but because of slopes, that's our best location, which will be nice because it would be adjacent to the restrooms. The only stalls we currently have are more towards the Carnegie Library side, so on the west side of the park. So if you're trying to access the playground or restroom area, you have to essentially park on the complete opposite end of the park currently. So this would definitely enhance that opportunity. We do have a drinking fountain that's there on site. It is not accessible by standard, and so we'd be looking at replacing that with a bottle filling, your regular bubbler, which is your standard, and then a dog dish for our dogs. So any water fountain that we're looking at replacing currently within our system, we are looking for those that have those multi-options. The bottle filling is quite popular these days as people carry around those with them as they're utilizing our park system. So again, these are the various pieces of equipment that we'll be looking at adding to. I really want to make a point that the current site is not accessible. We don't have any accessible play features there. This would include a number of different structures that would be accessible to children with various disabilities. So that's something that we've been striving to include within our park system. Run through some pictures. I did provide you the slides up there if you aren't able to see these. That pathway on the bottom side of the picture is what's currently there, so we wouldn't be enhancing that. That's already accessible. We made that improvement about 15 years ago. Again, these are just examples. What we would be doing is we would be bidding this project out because we'd be looking at spending close to about $200,000 on the equipment itself. So that would require us to go through the bidding process, which would take place over the winter. So looking at the ADA parking area, this gives you a good idea on that eastern side where that parking would be. The left picture is looking from across the side, on the east side of that driveway, looking towards the southwest. And then the right picture is directly where that parking would go, like I mentioned previously, directly adjacent to the restroom, which would bring that access off of the roadway, so then they're not entering that lane of traffic to access the restroom facilities. So these are the drinking fountain, the drinking fountain that I spoke of. The one on the left is what's currently there, and then the one on the right is the one that we would be looking at purchasing. So again, just to run through some of our estimates, just so you're aware, we have about $175,000 roughly that's going to go towards the actual amenities within the playground area. We're estimating about $45,000 for a certified playground installer to come in and do that install. That helps maintain the warranty of the equipment. The ADA parking area, we're guesstimating a little under $50,000 for that. For the drinking fountain, it's about $6,300 for that, and then we're leaving ourselves about $11,000 for contingency for that. So with that, I stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director. Councilors?
Public first.
We can get to that. Are there any questions before we get to that?
Oh, I just.
Councilor Speckelmeyer?
Thank you, Mayor. So Director, I assume these look like grade upgrades. So is Pioneer Park probably our oldest, as far as the playground equipment and stuff? So that's why you selected Pioneer Park specifically?
That's a great question. That's partly it, and partly because of the way our city is broke down. Pioneer Park is actually the only area or neighborhood that qualifies for this funding. But we did want to make sure that we weren't just looking at replacing equipment that was going to be good for the next 10, 15 years. One thing we are running into is we aren't able to have replacement parts for a lot of our equipment anymore. That we pretty much all of our equipment was completed between 91 and 99 timeframe, 1999.
Thank you.
Councilor Forsman, did you have a question?
Spiegelmeyer actually answered it, or asked it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to provide testimony tonight? This, okay. Councilors, any further questions? Just a reminder, this is your time to ask questions. Once the public hearing is closed, no additional evidence or testimony may be received. Councilor Forsman.
How long, once we put in the request to get the grant, how long will it take us to find out if it was approved?
So we're hoping to find out at the January timeframe at the latest, and then we would immediately try to turn around and get our bid documents together and get that out for bid, because it will take, getting that equipment is getting better than it was 3-4 years ago. So we'd be needing to expect about 3-4 months for delivery after we have selected all of that. The equipment would take the longest, but we can also bid out and move forward with the other projects in the meantime. So we're hoping to be open by early summer, June timeframe is what our hope is.
Councilor Forsman.
And then if we don't get it, how will we know whether it didn't go through for the public?
So they would notify us, the organization would, and then we can just, if depending on what council would want to do, we can always get the word out to let people know that this was not funded through that organization. Again, this isn't a project that we anticipated within our current budget year, so it's technically unfunded, but we would go through the process this summer, and then we would amend the budget for that. Again, not utilizing any current city dollars. This would all be unplanned grant revenues.
Thank you.
I don't hear any further questions. I will close the public hearing. Thank you, Director Barker. Councilors, next up, we have item B, Idaho Community Development Block Grant CARES application. Considering approval of the proposal to the Idaho Department of Commerce for an Idaho Community Development Block Grant CARES in the amount of $250,000 for improvements at Pioneer Park. This is an action item. Councilor Towsley.
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to approve the proposal to the Idaho Department of Commerce for an Idaho Community Development Block Grant, CARES, in the amount of $250,000 for improvements at Pioneer Park.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Towsley, second by Councilor Schroeder, to approve the proposal to the Idaho Department of Commerce for an Idaho Community Development Block Grant CARES in the amount of $250,000 for improvements at Pioneer Park. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lidkey.
I just want to commend city staff for going after this grant. It will be great to see monies coming through state agencies to our city to make improvements that the citizens can enjoy. So just another thank you to the staff for doing the work to research where we could go after this money and putting it to good use. I think people will be very happy to see improvements if we can get this awarded.
Thank you for those words of encouragement, Counselor. Is there further comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Discussion, Counselor Towesley?
Yeah, I just think for anybody who's ever spent any time in our city, we all have fond memories of things that have happened in Pioneer Park. It's just a wonderful meeting place, whether it's at the band shell or all the other things that go on. And to have good equipment that is safe and accessible for all of our citizens, and to have a grant that is going to be taking care of that, I think it's just a wonderful thing. And thank you, staff, for working on that.
Mayor.
Counselor Forsman?
There's a particular group, LC Valley moms, that takes all their kids out to the parks, and they go to different areas so they can get out of the house and the kids can interact. And so I'm sure that they would be happy if this is able to go through, because now they get to have a place to take their kids that has some new equipment and more exciting for their children. So it's nice to see that. I know my little kids like to go to the park when they're getting all cooped up in the house.
Thank you, Counselor. Further comments? Okay. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, counselors. Next up, we have item C, public hearing VA-02-2023, accepting additional testimony on a request to vacate a section of the Bryden Avenue public right-of-way, beginning at the east side of 18th Street and extending a distance of 476 feet east, with the condition that an alternate public right-of-way be dedicated in the final plat of the Canyon Crest South Addition that connects 18th Street to the remaining portion of Bryden Avenue, not vacated, in a location satisfactory to the city engineer. Again, councilors, I will open the public hearing. We'll have a staff presentation. We'll accept applicant testimony or presentation testimony from the public. Then, councilors, you'll have a chance to ask questions of staff, applicants, and persons providing testimony, and applicants' rebuttal if there is any, and then I will close the public hearing. With that, I will open the public hearing and welcome our city surveyor, Mr. Wiggin. I also would like to announce that this public hearing is being held as an additional public hearing as a result of the City Council's decision to have a second public hearing to receive testimony from the applicant. Others wishing to provide testimony will also be given that opportunity. Welcome, Mr. Wiggin.
Mayor, council members, good evening. Mark Wiggin, City Surveyor. This is the second public hearing for VA 02-2023. In the first public hearing on September 25th, 2023, the council heard the staff report and public comments regarding this action, and after deliberation voted to deny the vacation request. At the council's work session meeting on October 2nd, 2023, the applicant addressed the city council and asked you to consider having an additional public hearing to allow for additional public comment regarding this request. The council voted to approve the applicant's request, and following completion of another round of the required public notice procedures, we are here tonight. So just to refresh your memory of the history of this action, the southerly side of this portion of Bryden Avenue right-of-way was dedicated to the public in May of 1910 as part of the publicly reported plat of the Lewiston Orchards Tract Number 12. In June of 2007, the publicly recorded plat of the estates at Canyon Crest Phase 1 dedicated the northerly side of the right-of-way. This means that the location of the Bryden Avenue corridor has been set for over 110 years, and all of the current adjacent landowners purchased their property having constructive notice that the property they were purchasing was adjacent to the Bryden Avenue right-of-way. This is a copy of a page of our transportation plan. So in the staff report, I noted that the required street continuation pattern for Bryden Avenue, and I believe some additional clarification on that subject is in order. The City Master Transportation Plan is a document that is approved and adopted by the City Council and is intended to be used as, and I quote from that document, guiding transportation-related aspects of land use decision-making by the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. So as I said, this is a copy of the Transportation Master Plan. And I would like to point out here, you can see on the Transportation Master Plan, it is a little small, and I can probably zoom in a little bit on this. We can see Bryden Avenue here near the center. And if we look, here's 18th Street. You can see my cursor on that. And this dashed line represents what they call a future proposed collector. And the whole document basically is showing these proposed plans. So this piece of Bryden Avenue is showing up as part of the Master Transportation Plan, and this section of it is a proposed future connection. As part of that, the city's 2020 Master Transportation Plan has designated this section of Bryden Avenue as a needed new roadway connection for the city road network. Bryden Avenue's inclusion in the transportation plan dictates policies for its development. Section 3232A of City Code specifically states, whenever a tract to be subdivided embraces any part of a street designated in the adopted city master transportation plan and or bike and pedestrian way designated in the adopted comprehensive plan, such street, bikeway, or pedestrian way shall be platted in conformance therewith. So under current city code, if the applicant proceeds with his subdivision plans, he is required to develop some version of the Bryden Avenue transportation corridor. Only a revision to city code and or the city transportation plan could remove that requirement. So I also wanted to go over some of the items that staff are required to consider when evaluating the feasibility of the proposed vacation. Those are contained in section 37107 of city code and include the effects on traffic, pedestrian, and bicycle circulation, fire and police service and their response times, stormwater impacts, and utility service. We must also ensure compliance with the comprehensive and transportation plan, which I just mentioned, and evaluate compliance with capital improvement programs. Council considerations are outlined in section 31109 and indicate your decision should be based on findings that proper notice has been given and that the public interest will not be prejudiced by the vacation. Additional insight into the public interest criteria can be obtained in subsection 31109C, where it indicates the conditions of approval shall be those conditions necessary to protect the rights and interest of the public. And in 39110C7, it states, any other matters relating to the vacation that is necessary to protect the public or adjoining property owner or to carry out city adopted plans. Once again, going back to the city plans. So at this time, the City Council has two alternatives with respect to this vacation request. Your first option is to uphold your initial decision and deny the applicant's request for vacation. And the second alternative is to reverse your initial decision and approve the applicant's request for vacation. If you choose to reverse your initial decision and approve the applicant's vacation request, it would provide the developer with the opportunity to construct this section of the Bryden Avenue Transportation Corridor. You have a second exhibit that I put together. As you can see in this exhibit, we talked about earlier what that street would look like. You can see Bryden Avenue across, coming straight across the map. And should this vacation be approved, the plan that the developer has for his subdivision would provide this yellow connection to Bryden. So it basically would move that transportation corridor approximately 104 feet south of its current location. This option is a compromise which would allow the continuation of the street network as described in section 3232 of code, while eliminating the double frontage condition of existing lots along Clearview Point Drive. And you can kind of see those in this portion of the aerial view. As it stands right now, Bryden Avenue abuts the south side and Clearview Point abuts the north. So Section 3235C does prohibit the double frontage of existing lots. The drawback to this option is a reduction in the efficiency of the transportation corridor due to the requested 90-degree turns to maintain the street connections. And you can see those in the aerial view, that there would be those two 90s that the corridor would be required to employ. I also want to put out that if Bryden is moved, Public Works could try to work with the developer to shift the alignment west of 18th, similar to what I've shown dashed here, in order to not require those 90-degree turns. And that's this dashed section. Right now, the existing street would go straight across, and this dashed section is just an example, depending on what the ultimate subdivision might look like. But we could realign this section as well to meet up with it, so we wouldn't have another set of 90s on that side if this were to be approved. That leads us to the second option, and your second option is to uphold your initial decision to deny the applicant's vacation request. Just to give you an idea of what a denial would mean moving forward, I can see three logical options for the applicant should you choose to uphold the denial. Number one would be to do nothing at this time. He would simply drop his plans for the subdivision of the property. Number two would be to develop the property by building Bryden Avenue in its current location. Although Section 3235C does state single-family residential lots extending through the block and having frontage on two parallel streets shall not be permitted. So that problem with the double frontage lots up here that we saw. It further references Section 3232F, which allows marginal access streets or reverse frontage with access control along the arterial route, or such other treatment as may be justified for the protection of abutting properties from the nuisance of and hazard of high volume traffic, and to preserve the traffic function of the arterial route. So essentially, if the developer builds Bryden in its current location, we can do that, but we would need to take steps to implement some form of access control along the north side of this section of Bryden Avenue. And it would be, depending on how long it took to build this out, all of that would probably end up having to have some form of access control. And I just also like to remind, that's basically all the new information. And as the mayor said, if we do choose to reverse your decision on this, we do definitely want to have that, the conditional approval with the necessary wording to require that continuation of Bryden Avenue. And with that, I stand for questions.
So Reagan, I think I would like to go to the applicant's testimony and presentation first, because I think he may have some additional information, and maybe we can circle back with you. I'll make sure that council does that. Thank you. I'd like to now welcome the applicant to the podium. Welcome, Mr. Young. If you'd please just introduce yourself for the record, and then I will turn the floor over to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Dan Young, I'm a resident of Lewiston. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use the map that's up there. And just for reference, I've been working with city staff on this for darn near a year. So we've been trying to figure out a solution that works. The public testimony that was brought before you, there was 10 people that came and spoke. And those 10 people were all in favor of the Bryden Street vacation. The one point of contention is it wasn't vacating all of Bryden. They wanted all of Bryden to be vacated, which if I lived on the north side, I would want a street behind my house. But I can't control, as the owner of the property next to 18th Street, I can't control what happens to the east of me. I came up with a solution that I thought was best for my piece of property and the people that were next to me that I could help. So if you look, if I can use this mouse again, so this piece of property immediately east of me, so the perfect model would be this road just goes straight through and connects onto 19th and heads out. So if you can see where the yellow is, the continuation of that yellow would be great. It would allow for houses or development on north and south side of the street, and it would turn into a through street where the city sewer already runs, and it would connect back out onto Airway and then onto Burl along 19th. So I approached the people right here to the east of me, and I asked them if they would sell some or all of their property, if they would consider developing part of their property. And their response was no. We just did some irrigation back there and planted trees, and we don't want to do anything there. With the full knowledge that Bryden at some point could be developed, possibly. And then next to that was the Cahill subdivision. And within the last 2 years, the council has allowed for a 3-lot subdivision to go in there. And they maintained the Bryden Avenue right-of-way with no concession for any other street through that subdivision. So there was no other place to go other than Airway or Bryden. And now there's 3 lots that were developed, and the homeowner's building a house where Bryden Avenue is, all the way to the north of the property. So there's a lot here, and there's a lot there, and then his lot is right here, and he's building a house all the way to the north. And then Mr. Steele owns the property further east, and I haven't had lengthy conversations with him, but at some point he would obviously like to develop this. And I can't disagree, I can't speak for him, but I don't see why he would want Bryden to be there. So all of the homeowners, maybe I shouldn't say all, the majority of the homeowners in that area would like Bryden to be vacated. And if I was any one of those homeowners, I would want Bryden to be vacated. But I can't do anything about what happens to the east of me. So again, I've done the best that I could by taking that street and swinging it 100 feet south, trying to get away from the double-fronted lots. And with the recommendation of the city staff, I swung the street back to the north and hooked back to where Bryden was so that connectivity could be maintained. There's a little bit of missing information that you can't really see the contour lines here, but on the master plan map, if you go all the way back to where Bryden starts and crosses Thane and head east, when you get to the Catholic Church and the soccer fields, there's very limited access there. And then as you continue east, when you go east of, and you can almost see it right here, when you get east of 16th, you run into a canyon. And so there's logistically a great challenge to ever developing Bryden across that. And I'm not talking like a small ravine, I'm talking a canyon. And then as you keep going, if you get past 19th Street, there is virtually a cliff right here. So to ever connect Bryden all the way to Lindsay Creek would be, again, a near impossibility just because the road drops off of a cliff. So when you're looking at that master plan and it shows lines on a flat piece of paper, it looks great. But when you look at the logistics of what is actually going to happen there, I can't ever see this portion being developed. I can't ever see this portion being developed. And so the fight to try to have Bryden go all the way east to west just doesn't logistically make sense, in my opinion. So here I am trying to develop this for knocking on a year. I have tried to help out the homeowners that I can to the north of me by swinging the street down here, and at the urging of city staff and recommendation of city staff. And I have notes because our original plat submittal stopped the street right here where it ran back into Bryden. And the staff said, if I do that, I have to continue Bryden and I have to develop that portion of it with a curb, sidewalk, and gutter with a full collector street improvement. So I did that at the staff's urging, resubmitted my plat, and here I am. So I am trying to move forward on this project, and I've already missed the construction, the summer, fall construction window, and now I'm heading into winter. So at some point it would be nice to be able to develop this. And of the 3 options that were presented, I think the first option was do nothing with the property. Unfortunately, my rich uncle didn't leave me a bunch of money, so I have to do something with this piece of property. I have to develop it, and I bought it with the full knowledge that Bryden would have to be developed at some point, or an alternative would have to be come up with. And so that's why I came up with an alternative that I thought was in the best interest of the homeowners to the north of me, as well as my piece of property. That is all.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Counselors, are you okay if we hear from the public first and then we'll take questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Young. Next up, we will accept testimony from the public. And I need to remind you that this public hearing is being held in addition to the prior one. All prior public comments have been duly noted and will continue to be thoroughly considered by the City Council. In the interest of time during the current public hearing, the City Council kindly requests that comments primarily focused on new information or commentary, that comments primarily focus on new information or commentary related to the proposed application. The City Council appreciates your cooperation in refraining from restating previous comments made during the last public hearing to ensure the efficiency and timeliness of tonight's public hearing. I also want to just let the public know and councilors for the record that we did receive written comments from Mr. Volk, and those have been entered into the record, and we have them with us tonight. So if you have comments tonight, you'll be given 3 minutes to provide your testimony. Please introduce yourself, your city of residence, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Peter Volk. My city of residence is in Biola, Idaho. My office is in Moscow. I do a great deal of legal work around development in the state of Idaho, and so I'm very familiar with the process. I just want to restate for the record how many people were here in the last meeting who objected to this, who were landowners and lot owners next to the portion which was not being vacated, appearing in mass in objection to those double front lots under the idea being to do the greater public good, which I think was alluded to in the code when considering the vacation of the street, and want to make sure that that is reminded in the record. But really the reason why I'm here tonight is to remind everybody of what the local land use Planning Act really requires in terms of when a final decision is made, which was made at the last hearing. The evidence was entered into the record, the hearing was called to a close, and a decision was made. The Land Use Act is a state mandated procedure which isn't being followed right now. So my basic objection on behalf of my client is that the city is sitting without legal authority to make any decision different than what they've made before. In fact, the next step to come out should be what's called the reasoned statement, which would describe why the decision was made last time and findings of fact and conclusions of law. And most importantly, include alternatives to how this development can continue while still satisfying the needs of the public and the code itself, so that these issues can be resolved and so that the developer can have an opportunity to develop and do the greater public good. That reasoned statement, when it comes out, starts a really important statute of limitations that allows the developer or whoever is unhappy with the reasoned statement to ask for reconsideration. This isn't an opportunity for new evidence. This is an opportunity for the council to sit, consider the reasoned statement, and then have an opportunity to second guess it. After that happens, then another opinion is issued within 60 days, and finally, we have an opportunity to appeal to the district court. So it is my opinion that we need to either affirm the decision because it is the decision and enter the reasoned statement so that the process can continue in accordance with state law, or back this train up completely and understand that this meeting can't be anything but the same decision because there really is no new facts. It's the same set of facts. The decision should be the same. And that's all I have to offer.
Thank you, Mr. Volk. Is there further public testimony?
Gary Smith, Lewiston. I've never met Dan Young before, but I've seen all his plans. We live in this section right here. And I just want to say, I like he's followed your code. he's trying to make right a wrong by not building a road right behind our houses. And he's still giving you access to Bryden to get back here to your utility lines and stuff. And like he says, this is drop off over here. Probably not gonna be nothing here either. But on the other side, this canyon is a piece of Bryden. All it is a dirt gravel driveway that goes down to a couple houses and dead ends. So Bryden actually stops way over there. The other thing that is nice about Dan's proposal here is that if Bryden was to go all the way behind our houses here, we would get impact from that neighborhood. The traffic from that neighborhood is gonna flow right behind our house. And it can flow out these other streets also, but by not having it there, we won't feel the impact of this big neighborhood going in right behind us. Something I noticed on the earlier map is, I think this must be Warner, or Warner's right here. There's none of this over out in here. I don't see Warner out in there either. So it was developed with not taking Warner all the way out through there either. So I just want to say that I like Dan's proposal. It does what it needs to do. It rights a wrong of not putting a road right behind our houses and keeps the impact of all that traffic from that new neighborhood and noise away from our backyards. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Additional comments? Okay, counselors, you have questions, that would be the time to ask of staff, the applicant, or our citizens. Mr. Volk has left, I think. Mr. Smith is still here. Again, no additional evidence or testimony may be received once the public hearing is closed. So this is the time to ask any questions you may have. Councilor Spicklemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question for, I guess, Mr. Young. I was curious on that angle piece that goes on the east or the west side of 18th. So has that landowner already been approached about changing that right away there?
Yeah, I own that piece also. And so that design, that's basically where we've got the road shown at this point, is to try to have connectivity. Yes, to answer your question, yes. Where that yellow dashed line is, we would be all for developing the street there and staying away from Bryden, where it lays now. Was that your question?
I had a follow-up too, Mayor.
Councilor Spicklemeyer.
And also the area, the proposed area through your subdivision, that would be a traditional width city road versus a subdivision road that, they're typically pretty small.
No, it's a full collector street with the full collector right away. So it's got the sidewalk, planter strip, curb, street, curb, planter strip, sidewalk. Full width street.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Towsley.
Mr. Young, thank you. So what we're seeing, that yellow strip that you're showing us, this is something that you've come together with city staff as a compromise of sorts from what we had seen before. Is that correct, or did I miss that?
No, that is the preliminary plat we submitted as submitted. When I originally submitted it, I had stopped. So they told me I had to connect back to Bryden. City staff told me I had to connect back to Bryden. So I went like this and left it alone. I stopped my street there because it would actually act as a fire department hammerhead. So I could have a house right there. And if Bryden were ever vacated further to the east, it wouldn't be a problem because there would still be access there. So that's why I wanted to stop it at that portion. The reason being is I know one of the homeowners that lives right there, and he does not want the street there, and it's outside my control, but that's why I tried to stop the street before it got to his property. Again, it's beyond my control, so there's nothing I could do about it other than stop at Bryden and hope at some point, there would be another solution. And, I don't know the way the code reads as far as connectivity. If you keep going north, there is no connection east-west. You can't get through as you continue to go north unless you go down Gun Club and then come back up Lindsay Creek. There is no connectivity right there. However, this didn't really come up in conversation, but Airway is still there, and it still allows for traffic to head east-west, and it goes all the way through with no double-fronted lots. And as a concession, I don't know if this came up in the public testimony before, but I offered an additional 17 feet of my property and agreed to develop that portion of Airway, which would help the connectivity to the east. So, because it's a 20-foot right-of-way now, so it's basically an alley. So I added 17 feet to that 20 and agreed to do the sidewalk, the planter strip, and the curb, and pave that portion of the street, just so you could get to my neighbors to the east, and then whatever happens to the east happens. I can't do anything about that.
Thank you.
Counselor Schroeder?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Young, for being here tonight. I think that we could have eliminated a lot of this frustration had you been here before, and I understand that circumstances that you had no control over. We never saw that other west side yellow dotted lines before. And even on the map that I'm looking at right now, it does not show that. And I get so frustrated when you go along on a road and it ends and you got to drive somewhere else to go somewhere else to get back up to something and go there. And you don't even know where you're going because the names of the streets all change. So if Bryden Avenue were to be extended, which I agree with you, it doesn't look like it will, but that's possible. Trying to find it from the west will be difficult, but that at least brings you into what is Gatlin Way, correct?
Yes.
Okay. See, this comes down with a straight line here. So we never saw that yellow line before. And that might have made a difference in my perception of this because I was basically the one that was not comfortable with it because it seemed to be too convoluted.
Well, I don't want to keep adding new information, but 17th Street is right here, and that's already dedicated. And there is the sewer line, and you can actually see where the sewer line travels. It's right there. And so we have a plan to develop 17th Street all the way along where that sewer line runs, and then that road would continue, and there would be that through street that connects that direction as well. So then you've got 17th in and out, 18th in and out, 19th in and out. At some point, 19th will be developed instead of just this one street that's taken all the heat. So, yeah.
No, I'm much more comfortable with your plan tonight than I had been. So thank you for being here. Because I've always liked your work.
Oh, thank you.
Counselor Forsman?
I have to agree with Schroeder on a little bit. The previous photo that we saw, it looked like the right of way was literally right in their backyards almost, like right against their fences. So I'm not sure where that miscommunication happened, but this didn't have that dip, so that helps kind of clear a better picture. But if I'm understanding, then they would pull into there, go up, and then it basically turns into a dirt lot after that, and they would turn around.
Correct. Yeah, we would just have an end of road sign, just a post with the little triangle thing on it that you can't go any further, basically. And in defense of city staff, I mean, they did their best working with, this is what we've got, and they tried to help me and follow code. So, I wish that the process would go faster, but I think that they did what they thought was best as we had the conversation as well. It's a mess, and we can't go back to 07 when it originally happened, but Clearview Point should have been where Bryden is. And, we can't go back however many years that is. But if Clearview Point is where Bryden is, and that was developed, those driveways would be coming this direction, and then whoever developed this piece in the future, there would be no double fronted lots, and Clearview Point would have been Bryden Avenue. But some previous city council approved that 16 years ago, but we can't go back, so.
Counselor Lidkey, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm just wishing there was a solution that we could, I know we can't go backwards, but I appreciate that Mr. Young has come up with these solutions. I'm just wondering, again, we keep bringing up the reality of Bryden being extended that far east. And so I guess my question is can we create a new plan, but probably not in a timely manner? I struggle with streets that start to look like what I'm seeing on the screen right now, and having long-term planning moving forward. It's going to affect every street in the area. So while I think that it is a solution, I wish there was a better one.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mayor.
Counselor Forsman?
And excuse me if I'm trying to make sure I wrap my head around this. So the whole purpose of that was to allow access to all the houses, or,
So you're talking about the S,
yeah,
the little S where it swings back to the north?
L, whatever.
That was what Mr. Wiegand started his presentation with, that Bryden Avenue was platted originally in the
Right.
1910 plat that allowed the city to have east-west access. So if I'm going to do anything other than develop Bryden, I have to come up with another solution. And so my solution was we move south and go here. And then city staff recommended that we hook back to the north and connect onto Bryden.
Those red squares are more houses possibly?
Those are my lots on my original plat. So that is my platted subdivision as you see it. So the yellow is one street, and then we've got another street right here, and then we're going to improve Airway, and then we've got a north-south street that goes right there. So that's where the streets lie.
Okay. So we couldn't have moved the development upward where there was houses back to back versus that road and then leave. Never
Yeah,
mind.
because you would lose the connectivity onto Bryden. So if I didn't swing my street back to Bryden, then you would be landlocked and couldn't get back up there.
Okay. Thank you.
But again, if I lived in any one of those houses, I would want Bryden vacated.
Counselor Schroeder?
Is vacating the rest of Bryden something that's in this to do tonight?
I don't understand the question, Counselor.
The rest of Bryden Avenue, the people there, I do remember they wanted the whole thing vacated. Is that something we're doing tonight or not?
No.
Okay.
And I'm hoping this is breaking ground for, at some point, maybe the rest of it could be vacated. I feel like it would be a small victory if we could get that portion vacated, because then I think it would logically ensue that the rest could possibly be vacated, but that's speculation.
Counselor Kleber?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So looking at this, yeah, I don't have it up there, but I'm looking at this one map. And we've got, basically the proposal to vacate the existing right-of-way. Who currently owns that property? Is that right-of-way still part, is it part of the backyards of the people on
right now, the city
Clearview
owns that
Point
property.
Drive?
Right now, the city owns that property. It's city right away.
Correct.
So if that property is vacated, the way that the city code reads is half goes north and half goes south. So it's 60 feet wide. So the people to the
They're
south
getting
get 30
30,
and the other people
everybody
get
else is
30.
getting 30. And we're doing that at no cost.
Yeah, you're gonna get some more tax revenue because you're not getting tax money on it.
Well, I get that. Thank you for the reminder. Okay.
Is that it for me?
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Okay, counselors, if you have no further questions, I'm going to close the public hearing. Next up, we have item D, consideration of VA-02-2023, considering vacating the public right-of-way in VA-02-2023, conditioned upon the dedication of an alternate public right-of-way in the final plat of the Canyon Crest South Addition that connects 18th Street to the remaining portion of Bryden Avenue not vacated in a location satisfactory to the city engineer prior to passage of the resolution implementing the vacation. And I'd like to just share a couple things, councilors, just to kind of get us over center. The council's decision-making here is based only upon the public discussion and other public information that is part of the official record for this matter. And to tell the public, the city holds public rights-of-way and trust for public use. The decision to relinquish the public right-of-way and restrict public movement through the right-of-way is a significant act and is not done lightly. So we, the council, should ensure that regardless of public input, the decision to or not to vacate a public right-of-way considers the general public at large and not just those who are providing input. And also, should you make this decision, it's recommended that the council consider the following factors in determining whether or not to vacate a public right-of-way, and I will list these for you. Number one, whether the vacation of the right-of-way will better serve the public, whether the right-of-way is no longer required for public use or public access, whether the substitution of a new and different public right-of-way would be more useful to the public, whether conditions may so change in the future as to provide a greater use or need than presently exists, effects the vacation will have on the overall transportation network, such as the effect on the movement of people, goods, vehicles, and public utilities throughout the city. Also, in considering the negative effect on the current and future needs of the transportation network, the council should consider whether these effects could be appropriately mitigated to permit the requested vacation, whether access to abutting property from the surrounding community and to the surrounding community from private property will be affected, and lastly, whether objections to the proposed vacation are made by owners of private property, exclusive of petitioners abutting the street or other governmental agencies or members of the general public. Councilors, you heard this earlier. You previously made a motion directing city staff to draft a resolution to deny VA-02-2023. At this time, you have two options. The first is to deny VA-02-2023. The city council can reaffirm its prior direction to staff to draft a resolution denying VA-02-2023. Or you can conditionally approve VA-02-2023. The city council can change its prior direction to staff and approve VA-02-2023 upon the condition that the applicant dedicate an alternate public right-of-way in the final plat of the Canyon Crest South Addition that connects 18th Street to the remaining portion of Bryden Avenue, not vacated, in a location satisfactory to the city engineer. I would caution you that whatever your decision is, you will need to state the evidence or testimony that affirms your decision that the requested vacation will or will not prejudice the public's interests as required by Lewiston City Code. And as I understand that, councilors, it means that you're making this decision your best decision and not being influenced outside of the public record. Counselor Schroeder?
I'd like to make a motion to approve VA 02-2023, conditioned upon the dedication of an alternative public right-of-way in the final plat of the Canyon Crest South Addition that connects 18th Street to the remaining portion of Bryden Avenue, which is not vacated, in a location satisfactory to the city engineer. And I am doing this in consideration of the facts that we have seen tonight, that there is no real other
Counselor Schroeder, I need a second before
Oh,
we discuss.
okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. I thought I needed to do that because it said I had to consider that.
Counselor Schroeder, you have the floor.
Okay. With the information that we have gotten tonight, that there's more of a streamlined entryway to Gatlin Way that is not right corners or left corners or sharp corners. It's a smooth transition for the Bryden Avenue, and it flows back up north and goes into Bryden Avenue, which is required. And I do believe that the developer has done due diligence on every avenue that I can think of for him to have done this, which is his normal procedure anyway, to do it right. But now I have a clearer picture, and I would like to approve this.
Is there further discussion? Counselor Kleberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is actually kind of a tough deal here. I mean, I've known Mr. Young for a long time. I've worked with him, it has nothing to do with my decision here, but I keep coming back to Mr. Wygand's presentation about giving up right-of-way. I mean, this has been in the public right-of-way for 100+ years, 1911. And I still think if people look at big picture stuff and not looking at next week or next year, you know, maybe it doesn't make sense to build a bridge across Bryden now or some sort of high-zoot turning road, but, you know, there are some guys that came to town and decided they were going to blow up 3 million yards of rock out of a hillside and put a Home Depot on it. It's just money. So there will be something built out there. It's just going to take money. So just want people to think about that. You know, thinking about, you know, we've got a strategic plan sitting out there on the table, talking about Lewiston, you know, 20, 30, 40 years from now. Think about that. I'll be gone.
Here.
Counselor Towsley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I honor the fact that this was first conceived in 1910, but no one's been breaking down the doors in 120 some years to put something through there. And for the strategic plan, part of that is to have available housing for the residents of our city. And this seems like a great opportunity for that to happen. There are a lot of cities that have sometimes not straight roads, and that's okay. This is an important thing. We desperately need housing. And if this was in a place of major density already, I would probably be thinking about it much differently, but it isn't. Could it be in the future? Maybe, but not in the near future. So I support this.
Counselor Schroeder?
Thank you. And one other thing that should be discussed or reintroduced is that the vacation that we're looking at of doing that portion, vacating that portion of Bryden Avenue, is because whatever developer did above that 16 years ago took no thought as to what was going to go below it. So I think we have a progressive developer here who is trying to make things right. Thank you. And I support this.
Counselor Lickey?
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one. To Counselor Towsley's point of housing, obviously we need more housing, but we also have unfinished developments that I'd like us to focus on. I just struggle with making this decision without really examining the master plan of, does Brighton need to be extended out? Is airway or some other process an option? But once we vacate this property, we've vacated it and we're not getting it back. And I struggle with the other homeowners, and, you know, unfortunately, I think they got the raw end of the deal, and why it wasn't discussed that that was a public right of way right behind their property, or if they purchased that property knowing that this was a street that could come through. You know, there's just a lot of factors that are put in front of us that are making this a very difficult decision for me to feel like I can do so fairly with the best information in front of me, because I feel like there's more questions to be asked. And unfortunately, I can only use what's been presented here. And I do feel like Mr. Young has presented good information, but I have to base it off the fact that he could sell this property tomorrow. And so promises of expanding airway, I don't know how much weight I can hold to that. So I'm certain at this point that I obviously need to make a decision quickly.
Thank you, Counselor. I'm gonna just pause for a moment unless there's any questions by council. Counselor Forsman?
Just, I guess, a comment. I'm still struggling with the same of, is it the necessary to still have the same plan for that road in the back? Or could that maybe code be adjusted to accommodate a different solution? I'm really having a hard time seeing. I'm worried that we're gonna make this decision and then it's gonna bite us in the long run. So I'm a little bit stuck with it. And I did read the paperwork and I read it over and over again. And I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around whether this is the best decision for all involved.
Counselor, just a reminder, in the motion, consideration of the preliminary plat for the Canyon Crest South Addition will be considered at our next council meeting. Counselors, if there's no further questions, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Okay.
Okay.
Counselor Litkey, how did you vote?
I voted nay, Mayor.
Did you get three? Three?
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor votes aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have item E, public hearing Z-02-2023, accepting testimony on a proposal to delete Lewiston City Code Section 37-159.1, setback from overhead electrical transmission lines. We have our Assistant City Planner, Katie Hollingshead, here. to present. We have a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. We'll have the staff presentation. We'll accept testimony from the public. Councilors, you are invited to ask questions, then I will close the public hearing. So with that, I will open the public hearing accepting testimony on a proposal to delete Lewiston City Code, Section 37-159.1, setback from overhead electrical transmission lines. Ms. Holland said, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Katie Hollingshead, Assistant Planner. This is going to be kind of a brief presentation because there's not a lot. Proposal in front of you for ZA02-23 is to eliminate a section of code, specifically Section 37-159.1, which currently requires that structures be set back a minimum of 11 feet from the edge of the right-of-way or an easement for an overhead high voltage electrical transmission lines, or that they're set back whatever the minimum setback is for the zone. In most places where you're going to see this kind of transmission line, it's going to be in commercial zones where there is normally not a setback or yard required. So this requirement causes some difficulty for our commercial developments and redevelopments, particularly where there are existing businesses who have a building and may want to do an addition, which is along the roadway. And you can see this most prevalent along Snake River Avenue, where there are high voltage overhead electric transmission lines and buildings that are already constructed within that 11-foot setback. Staff has researched the inclusion of this requirement in city code and found it to have been an unnecessary last-minute addition to the zoning code back in 1994. Recent discussions about this matter with both our building official, the fire marshal, and Avista representatives reveal that there are other adequate safety controls that exist outside of this zoning code that do protect people who are doing building maintenance, construction, the buildings themselves, occupants of the buildings from those transmission lines. Deletion of this requirement from the zoning code will make it easier for commercial development and redevelopment within the city of Lewiston. And I would stand for questions.
Thank you. Katie, councilors, any questions? Councilor Spickelmeyer?
Thank you, Mayor. So instead of eliminating, it seems odd to eliminate the whole requirement and not reduce it. You know, the 11-foot standoff and.
So other codes like building code, fire code, OSHA standards have setbacks in place, not necessarily setbacks, have safety measures in place that would kind of circumvent the requirement for the zoning code, which is why we went to those other bodies and made sure that us eliminating this wasn't going to cause other problems. And so after speaking with the building official, the fire marshal, and Avista, they said that they have other things that are in place with their codes. So it's not necessary for zoning code to have an 11-foot setback.
Very good, thank you.
Councilor Forsman?
By doing this, is this kind of ease the burden and kind of the walls that we give to sometimes developers when trying
That
to?
is the hope, is that it'll eliminate a wall.
Okay.
Especially, so like I said in the commentary that was included in your packet, there are several buildings, especially along Snake River Avenue, that are built very close to the right-of-way and already sit within that 11-foot setback that's currently required. And if any of those businesses wanted to remodel or do anything with their existing building, they would run up to this piece of code saying that they have to have an 11-foot setback, which isn't necessarily necessary given that there are other safety factors already in place that will protect.
Councilor Schroeder?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 4896.
Councilor, can I ask you to hold off just for 1 second? I think Councilor Townsend would like to
Oh.
ask a quick question.
That's
if I
right.
may. Please, and then we need to hear from the public too.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, we
Mayor.
do, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Katie, in doing this, is there any way that our citizens would become less safe in how things were put together and how things are built?
Based on our discussions with Avista, the building official and the fire marshal, No.
Thank you.
Further questions, council? Okay, is there any testimony from the public tonight? Ernie, Councilor, well, I've closed the public hearing. And then we will. Turn over to item F. Is that where you're at, Councilor? Ordinance 4896, first reading, considering repealing section 37-159.1 of the Lewiston City Code titled Setback from Overhead Electrical Transmission Lines and reserving such section. This is an action item. Councilor Schroeder,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 4896. Second.
it's been moved by Councilor Schroeder, seconded by Councilor Forsman to approve the first reading of ordinance number 4896. Is there discussion? Amendments? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Clerk Rocky?
Approving the first reading of ordinance 4896, an ordinance of the City of Lewiston repealing section 37-159.1 of the Lewiston City Code titled Setback from Overhead Electrical Transmission Lines and reserving such section and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Clerk Rocky. Councilors, next we move to agenda item 6, consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the councilor so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered on the active agenda under items moved from the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilor Towsley.
I'd make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Been moved by Councilor Towsley, seconded by Councilor Schroeder to approve the consent agenda. Is there discussion?
Mayor,
Councilor Forsman?
I just wanted to point out, I had a question, but I sent it in to finance earlier, so I was able to get that answered, but
Thank you, Councilor.
we'll get that done.
Councilor, or Clerk Rocky?
Counselor Towsley,
Aye.
Counselor Forsman,
Aye.
Counselor Schroeder,
Aye.
Counselor Kleberg,
Aye.
Counselor Spickelmeyer,
Aye.
Council President Lidkey.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, councilors, and thank you, staff, for your work on council minutes, advisory board commission minutes, and vouchers payable. Councilors, next we have, under the active agenda, Roman numeral 7, item A, Boys and Girls Club of the Lewis Clark Valley, FY24 service agreement, considering approval of the fiscal year 2024 service agreement between the City of Lewiston and the Boys and Girls Club of the Lewis Clark Valley Incorporated in the amount of up to $18,000. This is an action item, and with us tonight, we have our Director, John Evans, and I'd like to welcome you to the floor. Please introduce yourself. You have it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. John Evans, Executive Director, Boys and Girls Clubs, Lewis Clark Valley, 1021 Burrell Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity here tonight. I'm not sure what Elaine did to this side of the room, but they all left. Elaine, they shouldn't be that scared of you. I provided to council a report on the past year. As a reminder, we have a contract with the City of Lewiston to provide recreational services for the children, youth, and families in our community. And as you can see by the document that I provided you, the numbers were up across all metrics that we had for the past year, which included flag football, soccer, basketball, spring soccer, sports camps, cheerleading, and dance. I provided some additional information for you as well, some of the other amenities in terms of grilled cheese sandwiches, summer lunch, and school year breakfasts that we provide. This past year, we gave out, specific to Lewiston residents, a little over 1,800 scholarships, making sure that no child or family is ever turned away due to financial hardship. The total of that was a little over $54,000 that was scholarshiped. Additionally, as part of our service contract, I'm required to meet with the mayor, which we have done at least monthly. We've had significantly more meetings than that during the past year. We've also invited mayor, council members, and other city staff to attend various events that we have at the club so that they can keep apprised of what's going on with the clubs. One additional note that I wanted to make that is not a part of our contract, but something that we like to reiterate is our organization doesn't always just want to come with our hand out. And one of the things that myself, our staff, and our board take very seriously is the role that we play in the community. This past year, there was a need, one of the facilities that the city owns that we use, which is Fenton Gym. There was a need there to upgrade the HVAC system, and our organization brought a little over $64,000 to the table to help make that happen. So I wanted to make council aware that, yes, this contract does provide services and dollars to the club, but we also very much believe in giving back and investing in our community as well. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Evans and councilors. As a reminder, you do have a sheet in front of you that details more of the benefits of our investment. Are there questions, councilors?
Mayor?
Councilor Speckelmeyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Director, I was looking at your sheet you handed out here, and it had the $54,000 in the financial assistance. Is that, what type of assistance is that?
So if a parent or child, whether they're going to apply for our annual membership, school year membership is $25 for the year, or any of our sports fees, typical sports fees are either $60 a season or $75, depending on which sport you're talking about. If they require any sort of financial assistance, if they're on free and reduced lunch, we'll immediately cut that in half, or if they need additional assistance beyond that, we will give up to 100% financial waiving of those fees for them.
Very good, thank you.
Councilor Forsman.
Just a comment. I know several parents that utilize your guys' services, as well as kids that enjoy the sports and all the things, the activities that you guys offer. And it's amazing to see that these kids have somewhere to go. Maybe they, need to stay busy and hopefully not getting in trouble. And so that it's awesome that we have this. And to me, we talk about a community that puts back in and make sure that we're taking care of each other. And to me, the Boys and Girls Club is an example of that, because we're keeping our kids safe and we're putting back in and making sure that we're growing productive adults that will one day make the future for their kids. So just appreciate all the work that your staff does. I know, I'm sure it's not easy, and just the amount of time and effort you put into it and making sure that no one gets left behind is truly amazing.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lidke.
I just have a couple of questions on the metrics and the services that will be provided. As you know, Director, I work in the disability field, and I see that number 2 says the law will allow all youth from the city of Lewiston desiring to participate in such recreational and cultural activities to do so regardless of ability to pay any fees or charges normally associated with such activities. When you say all youth, does that mean children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including the need for behavioral intervention?
Yes, they have to have the ability to act and interact independently in a club setting, which is part of our charter requirements and membership requirements through Boys and Girls Clubs of America. However, we do have instances where children who have additional counseling or counselor aides who can help them while they're either participating at the club or in the athletic activities. As long as they have those folks and those amenities available, then yes, they can participate.
Thank you.
Councilors, are there further questions? Director Evans? Thank you, Director. Councilor Schroeder?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the services agreement between the City of Lewiston and Boys and Girls Club of the Lewis Clark Valley, Inc.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Schroeder, second by Councilor Forsman, to approve the services agreement between the City of Lewiston and Boys and Girls Clubs of Lewis Clark Valley, Inc. Clerk Brocky.
Counselor Towesley,
Aye.
Counselor Forsman,
Aye.
Counselor Schroeder,
Aye.
Counselor Kleberg,
Aye.
Counselor Spiegelmeier,
Aye.
Council President Lidke.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Director. Councilors, next up, we have item B, Beautiful Downtown Lewiston FY24 Service Agreement, considering approval of the fiscal year 24 service agreement between City of Lewiston and Beautiful Downtown Lewiston Revitalization Corporation in the amount of up to $30,000. This is an action item. Councilors, we heard from the Director at our last meeting. Councilor Schroeder,
I'll make a motion to approve the service agreement between the City of Lewiston and beautiful downtown Lewiston Revitalization Corporation.
Second.
been moved by Councilor Schroeder, second by Councilor Kleberg, to approve the services agreement between the City of Lewiston and Beautiful Downtown Lewiston Revitalization Corporation. Clerk Rocky?
Counselor Towesley,
Aye.
Counselor Forsman,
Aye.
Counselor Schroeder,
Aye.
Counselor Kleberg,
Aye.
Counselor Spiegelmeier,
Aye.
Council President Lidke.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, councilors. Next up, under Roman numeral 7 active agenda, we have item C, Historic Preservation Plan, considering adoption of the Historic Preservation Plan for the City of Lewiston. This is an action item, and we have our engineering project supervisor, Ms. Alana Bailey, with us here tonight. Ms. Bailey, please introduce yourself for the record. The floor is yours.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Alana Bailey in the Engineering Department. I am here before you for the second time, and about a month ago in your work session for October, we brought this before you and explained why we were here and what exactly the Historic Preservation Plan was. You're going to see something similar tonight. I'm going to give you a quick, brief history on why we did this document, and then Katie Hollingshead is going to come over and explain the document to you. So this document began after the City of Lewiston accepted a drinking water loan from DEQ. Part of the requirements from that loan, which we received which we accepted in 2019, was to complete an environmental evaluation, which included historical and architectural review. When that review was completed, it was determined that the demolition of two structures out at the water treatment plant required mitigation. So the mitigation that we negotiated was to complete a historic preservation plan. The engineering department, along with the historic committee and the DEQ and SHPO, came to an agreement. We found a historical preservation staff in the Seattle area who we contracted with, and to date, we have paid them a total of roughly $22,000 to complete the plan that's before you. So with that, I will give it over to Katie.
Good evening again, Council, Mr. Mayor. So my name is Katie Hollingshead. Besides being Assistant Planner, I'm also the staff for the Historical Preservation Commission. The commission worked with our consultant from Cultural Resources, and we developed this plan. So the plan included objectives and policies that are going to be reflected in the commission's what we call priorities planning. And so those are the different projects that the commission works on throughout the year and from year to year. We conducted a survey, we had some public outreach events to get public feedback on the different types of projects or things that they thought the commission should champion. And that information was put into this plan and helped direct those goals and objectives that were set forth in it. And the plan was reviewed by SHPO, which is the Idaho State Preservation Office. They added a couple of objectives and goals that they would like to see. And ultimately, that's what developed the plan, and the plan was approved by commission and recommended for council. I would stand for questions.
Thank you, Katie. Councilors, any questions?
Just a comment.
Councilor Towesley.
I thoroughly enjoyed rereading what you guys submitted to us. It's always fun to read about and recognize homes within our area that receive recognition for their historical importance. So thank you.
Oh, Counselor Schroeder,
I was just going to make a motion.
motion's in order.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the municipal preservation plan for the city of Lewiston.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Schroeder, seconded by Counselor Townsley to adopt the municipal preservation plan for the city of Lewiston. Is there discussion? Counselor Forsman?
I just want to say I enjoyed reading it also, and I especially enjoyed reading about the Appaloosa. That was an interesting history, and as well as just the many other historical facts and how far this city, community has come and all that in the years. So it was a lot to read. It's a lot of pages here, but it was definitely a good read.
Thank you, Counselor. Did I call for the vote? My apologies. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, counselors, and Ms. Kayla Herman. Counselors, we jump over Roman numeral 8 down to Roman numeral 9, unfinished and new business. Item A, city councilor comments. Comments shall not be related to an item currently before the city council or an item that may come before the city council in the foreseeable future and shall be limited to comments, not discussions. Counselor Schroeder.
Thank you. I did get to very briefly sometimes, but I made it to all three of our public outreaches this week. And they were also very interesting. There's one still going on out in the foyer at the library on the second floor. And I think it's here till Thursday. Anyway, it's still up tonight. So it'll be there tomorrow, but each one of them was very, in my opinion, well attended. And it's great to have people showing up for the outreaches. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Townsley.
Thank you. I had a good conversation with Chief Cusick today about future use of monies that we've received or will be receiving from settlements with pharma corporations and the opioid crisis that we have dealt with in this country that have affected many of us. And he assured me that the lion's share of the money there will be dedicated to treatment and rehabilitation and offering programs that will be making a difference in our community. And he went on to point out a lot of important things, and I hope that at some point you'll have a conversation with him about that, because he's been pretty passionate about it, so I appreciate that. Also, I was able to tour the new / refurbished wastewater treatment plant. I came up with 25 different ways to describe it, all very clever, but I decided to just say that it's very deep. It's 3+ million gallons of water go through that system every day. And it's an amazing accomplishment that when that water goes back into the river, it is good stuff. It's not doing any harm to the environment as we speak. And that's tied to something else, and that is there are a lot of people in a lot of places in the world that aren't able to take for granted the fact that they have clean drinking water, that they have adequate disposal of waste, that those kinds of things are a challenge and a struggle. And we learned a little bit for a very short time last early spring, late winter, about that when we had to boil water for a while, which for many people in the world is a daily occurrence. And we got a sense of it for a little bit. But besides that, we have a great system. The city of Lewiston does a wonderful job with that, and I'm glad I went out there to view that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Forsman.
As a reminder, voting's coming up. The Women League of Voters put on a forum. I believe you can find on their website if you wanted to look into the candidates they're running. The Women's Republican Group also put one on, Jollymore, and I think they recorded it and posted it. It wasn't live. So that's another one. I was there in person, but I saw them recording. So that's another one you could look into. So just ask that you encourage people to vote. We actually have a pretty low voting for the population size that we have. So get the news out there and please, please, please vote, and then do your research who you feel would best represent the city of Lewiston. Definitely a lot of interesting ideas. So just encourage you to get out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor, for the comments. Okay, number B, letter B, city boards and commission liaison updates.
Mayor?
Counselor Forsman?
I had my MSAB Emergency Board Commission, and I was not able to make the tour for the wastewater, but I did schedule to do that because I was really wanting to go to that, but my meetings collided. And we're good, there's a lot going on and keeping our city safe and making sure that our fire and our medics are there and able to respond as quickly as possible. And so having that group together is a great resource, and to make sure that we are continuing to make sure that we can get the fastest response time possible for our citizens. So a lot going on. And then Parks and Rec, I got to take a tour around the parks and see some of the new fun, exciting things happening. The golf course had some updates done to it. Maybe go out up there and maybe get some food, play some golf, if you so choose. Other park, the pickleball field park, not pickleball fields, but pickleball courts, that's the word I'm looking for, is looking good. I can't wait to see people out there and playing. I'm enjoying that. And the Modi Park also has a lot of potential and new excitement coming to it. And so that's a lot of what we went over at the commission meeting for the Parks and Rec meeting. So that was good to see a hands-on walk around, talk about things. It was a good resource. They do that once a year. So that was I missed the last year, so I was excited to be able to go to this year's.
Thank you, Counselor. Item C, Mayor comments. I have three quick ones. First of all, again, I'd like to thank the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution for being here tonight and sponsoring a proclamation. We appreciate your involvement in civics and in your city government very much. I also want to thank all the members of the public that stayed with us till the very end. That's a treat for us. And quickly, too, I want to give a shout out to Seekins Precision. I think it was reported in the Lewiston Morning Tribune, maybe by Arlene Williams, but they were featured on the cover of Guns and Ammo for November 2023, tagging out the new lightweight rifles. So that was quite a kudos for them. I had a chance to tour them a couple weeks ago with my son, and we saw that. So congratulations to them. And then I'm going to take a liberty here, and I hope I don't embarrass somebody or upset them, but we have a special guest here tonight. Grayson, can I ask you to stand up and just introduce yourself and tell people, the public here, why you're here, and then I'll get on to my next business.
Hello, my name is Grayson Jensen. I'm with the ASB of Colstack High School, and I'm rewriting my bylaws, so I decided to sit into a city council meeting. And I will be interviewing our mayor.
After the meeting. So isn't that great that we have our youth here watching what we're doing? So thank you for being here, and I'll see you after the meeting. We're just about finished here.
Stayed away.
Agenda topics, councilors? If not, we'll move to Roman numeral 10, adjournment.
I'd move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Councilor Towsley, second by Councilor Schroeder to adjourn. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.